The world market efficiently conducts the allocation function to guide the flow of goods, uh, services, labor, and capital to the places where they are needed. However, and I emphasize this, with the happening of global financial crisis, this neoliberal market model has been put to question and held under scrutiny. The call for regulating financial institutions of the world economy, and in particular the economic sector, and also the earlier policy of protectionism, have become louder now. The economic dimension or facet of globalization refers to an increasing interconnectedness and interdependence of various enterprises spread throughout the world. Take, for example, most of the luxury consumer products which are nowadays made. It is really, rarely truly national in the sense, because many of the inputs consist of imported materials or parts. Thus, the huge cry of national campaigns to buy only national products is far from reality. Same way, the top global financial markets are located in global cities, which act as a hub of interconnected centers, which are more closely connected to their counterparts across the world than to the cities in their immediate vicinity. I now skip to the fourth part, wherein I have discussed some recent trends worldwide. I'm sorry, I'll skip that part, and I'll quickly move to the fifth part, wherein I have discussed some associated risks to globalization. So, first and foremost, it has been said that instead of reducing the gap between the developed and the developing world, it has in many cases resulted in the opposite. This is evident from the per capita difference of the richest country and the poorest country, which has actually expanded. The reason being that developed countries are able to expand their markets in other countries with ease due to availability of capital and enterprise. Secondly, the economic globalization and liberalization has exposed the developing countries of getting affected by global unfavorable factors. The biggest point in case of the subprime crisis of USA, which has not only affected USA but also various other countries adversely. The large amount of international floating capital has put many developing countries on a roller coaster ride. Also, the short term borrowing in order to keep pace with the world has put enormous pressure on the developing countries. All this leads to bubble economies and rapid fluctuation of foreign exchange rates. This eventually weakens the monetary sovereignty of the countries, many of which do not have idea of how to hedge and protect themselves from the global fluctuations. Also, some of the cleverly crafted money market and other instruments pose a serious threat on the economies of the countries. Let us now talk about how these things can be prevented, which I have discussed in my part 6 of the paper. First and foremost, the international economic organizations should play a bigger role in the process of economic globalization, else the global economy shall be in a free falling and drifting state. This will be similar to the internal or domestic economic scenario of developed countries of the West in 1930s, when the economic crisis is spreading all over the capitalist world led to rise of Keynesian economics and governmental intervention of economic operations. So I'm kind of suggesting that international monetary institutions should resort to Keynesian economics also where it is required. Now, further, these financial institutions should also strengthen the cross-border financial supervision. It may be noteworthy that towards this step of bringing about increased transparency of financial institutions and also to raise their capital sufficiency rate, Basel norms have been put in place. Furthermore, appropriate control over the flow of international capital should be exercised, and in particular over the flow of short term capital that has serious negative impacts. In recent years, there has been a heated debate in international circle of economies on the Tobin tax, also informally referred to as Robin Hood tax, named after Nobel Prize winning economist James Tobin, which is a tax levied on the spot currency conversions, which is basically to discourage the short-term currency speculation. It is now formally known as financial transactions tax, and it may be interesting to note that in India there is already a form of Tobin tax called as securities transaction tax, which was introduced in 2004. And STT is levied on all transactions undertaken on stock exchanges and also on mutual funds. Secondly, the interest of developing countries should be protected and guaranteed, and their say or opinion in the process of developing a new international economic order must be enlarged. Thirdly, the steps taken in order to reform economic system and readjusting economic structures must be speeded up, as the gap in this regard is quite large between developing and developed countries. Now, finally, I'll give my conclusions and suggestions. Globalization today is kind of inevident, is evident and undeniable, and its scale is constantly growing. We now live in a world which is more and more interconnected and is akin to the global village or Vasudev Kutumbakam. However, globalization is a double-edged sword that not only affects the international finance but also threatens the state's sovereignty. This is evident from the fact that today many of the world's top corporations yield more power than the governments of the state in which they operate and also allow them the power to conduct massive human rights violations across the globe. Furthermore, many nations across the world rarely define the rules and regulations of their economy, production, credits, exchange of goods and services, thereby exposing themselves to the menace of globalization. The recent example of this can be seen in the case of Uganda, which has struggled to save its only airport from the Chinese takeover. Although this report was later denied, but there is a real risk and threat in such transactions which are as a result of globalization. There are numerous other examples wherein many unscrupulous countries have resorted to these practices in the past as well as in the present, bringing to light the fact that there lies huge asymmetry of powers that accompany globalization. Thus, to sum up, globalization, which we have examined from the above, is not a new phenomenon. It brings about a lot of benefits as well as poses a number of threats and challenges. It is suggested that countries must take the benefit of globalization, but at the same time, they must be vigilant in warding off the threats of their power and sovereignty, which can be usurped by wealthy MNCs. As a special note for the African states, it is suggested that they should define the rules and regulations of their economy, etc., in order to suppress and arrest the menace of globalization and also save millions of their population from human rights violations occasioned by the activities of multinational corporations. Thank you, madam. I would say that WTO has not really, able to achieve its purpose completely. WTO has failed in that respect because, as I mentioned in my paper also, there is a huge disparity even now. I mean, globalization was supposed to lift up developing countries, and but actually, what happened is the developed countries they got richer and the poor countries they got poorer, and that is very evident from the disparity in the purchasing power parity and the per capita incomes also. So this answers your first part. Secondly, madam, I believe the solution is in the regional agreements. Like when I was in Africa, there was a SADC. SADC countries used to. There were some so regional alliances and all. They also, in a way, they kind of the countries which are similarly placed and geographically placed, they kind of benefit out of these regional agreements. So WTO has to really gear up to address the problems of the developing countries. I would like to say. I hope I have answered your question.